So it's great to introduce Pat Casey. Many of you have followed the career of Pat, and many of you know the information I'm going to be presenting, but well, try to keep it short. So Pat's won 900 games at Oregon State, spending 24 years as the program's head coach. He won national championships in 2006, 7, and 18, and sent the Beavers to 13 times to the postseason. He was named National Coach of the Year and guided the Beavers to league championships in 05, 06, 2013, 14, and 17. His wife, Susan, has raised their family here in the community. And it's kind of a funny side note, but I coached Pat's two sons, Brett and John, in Boys and Girls Club basketball. So we go back a few years. So it's my pleasure to introduce Pat Casey. Pat.
Now you know why Brett and John were very good in hoop. Steve coached them. I got a lot of fond memories, with the Boys and Girls Club. All my children participated here. I think right here in this gym, unfortunately, one of the things I remember the most is my daughter, Ellie. She really wanted to be a basketball player, but she really wasn't that good. So anyway, being a coach at the time, you're distracted. And you show up from practice, and you really don't want to be there, and which is unfortunate, but you really do. Anyway, she was young enough where you wore the bands. One team wore green, one team red, so you could identify who you were supposed to be guarding and passing to, which I thought was kind of funny. And anyway, she steals the ball at half court, and she goes in and makes a lay-in, and she's jumping up and down. My wife, Susan's, because this is the first bucket she scored all year. Wrong bucket, wrong team. Only basket she scored all year long. That's true. So anyway, it happened right here, I think on that court right there. Anyway, I'm a little nervous because usually when you speak, you're somewhere where nobody knows you. I got to kind of tell the truth today, I guess. So June 21st, 1987, I was playing AAA baseball with the Minnesota Twins. So I was one step from being a big league player. June 22nd, I got called into the office and released. I was unemployed. On Tuesday of that week, the 24th, I got a call from a man named Paul Berry, who asked me if I'd be interested in coaching baseball. And I said, I have no desire to coach baseball. I just played 8 years of minor league baseball. And he called me again on Thursday, asked me to come in. Hi, Ed. I didn't know you were here. Now I really got to tell the truth, right? I really respect Dr. Ray. I mean, he's one of the best men ever. So anyway, I went in and met President Stevens, and he talked me into becoming a coach. And, at George Fox, they got a little different lifestyle than I was used to playing 8 years of minor league baseball. And I said, I'm not sure I'm built for this. And we talked for about an hour, and he said, well, go home and think about it. And I did. And he called me. He said, come in, I want to talk to you again. He said, I've been thinking about this, and he said, you're meant to be a coach. So I started coaching. And I learned a lot of things about coaching in a short period of time. One, I learned out how bad baseball was at George Fox. That's for sure. I learned how to manage a budget, be a bus driver, be a trainer, counselor, psychologist, you name it. I had no idea that I'd be so responsible for so many young people. What I found out through that responsibility is what a great opportunity that gave me. And that opportunity, I never dreamed would manifest itself into helping change kids' lives, having an impact on their lives. I just wanted to coach and get it over with and get into the real estate business and make some money. That never happened. But what I did was I created a place where it was a home away from home, a place that kids could have someone that they could rely on to, and I didn't realize how much guidance young people need. It shocked me how much someone needed someone, and that's all they really needed was someone to care about who they were. And in today's rapid pace of change, and the undermining of family values and the family unit, there's a void for young people. And I think they need a place. They need a home. They need mentors. They need leaders. They need people that care. And that's what the Boys and Girls Club is. It's a place for our young people to go to grow, not just in activities, but socially, academically. Learn how to be self-sufficient. Learn how to develop habits that will become ways for success later in life. They say the number one emotion in society today is fear. And that shocks me. Fear is the number one emotion in society today. And that fear creates a sense of purposelessness, which is a great misery in society today. Because each and every one of us have a purpose. And all we have to do is help someone seek that out and hunt it down. And that's why we need places like the Boys and Girls Club. 1 out of 3 children today live in a home without a father. 50 years ago, that was 10%. Now today, it's almost 35%. So I can't tell you how much my job as a coach got into being a father, a family for our kids to go to, a place to fill that void. And like I said, once I found out how important that was, I became a much better coach. Because winning and losing games is a byproduct of what you do with the kids you have and the people you have, just like life. And there's nothing good in life unless you really invest something into it. So I expect our guys to become leaders. The number one thing that I ask them to do is to learn how to lead. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what leaders is. I don't know if I can see because I got Steve's glasses. My wife buys me 10 pair at the Dollar Tree because I lose all 10, and obviously I lost number 10 this morning. So, nope, that ain't going to work, man. You got bad eyes, Steve. So, anyway, number one thing that leaders have to do, and there's a lot of things, and people have different opinions about this, so I'm just going to give you my humble opinion. They need to inspire you. They need to inspire you not to make you do things, but motivates you to do things that you don't want to do that you know are good for you. That's the one thing that leaders have to do. They have to be able to inspire. People that are uninspired, there's hardly anything that they can do, but once they become inspired, there's hardly anything they can't do. And a lot of people talk about our success on the field, and I can tell you that almost all of our success on the field would not take place without what happens off the field. And one of the things we do in today's society, I believe, is we don't let them know that some of the failures they have, yes, they need encouragement. They also need to understand that the characteristics of success are built during those struggles. And so what we do is we think we're helping them out by fixing all the struggles, and really what we do is ruin the destination. Because the struggles are where you find what's in your soul. That's where you learn who your teammate is, or who your classmate is, or who your friend is. Without the struggles, there is no real success. And if you look long and hard enough at every single person, you will find value. You will find truth. You will find the good in them. They may not know what's there, but you have to invest the time. The time. And the funny thing about time, it's the only inventory we can't get more of, yet it's the thing that we waste the most of. Time. I've never had one kid ever come into my program that knew there was 168 hours in a week. Sorry, Ed, we're not recruiting very smart kids, but not one kid ever knew there was 168 hours in a week. I always ask 2 questions when they come in the first week. First meeting, we put all the new guys in the front. One question I ask them, they all raise their hand, and one nobody raises their hand, and that's the one that nobody raises their hand. How many hours in a week nobody's ever raised their hand? So I let them know there's 168. The next question I ask them is, how many guys would like to know how to fix 98% of your problems? They all raise their hand. Would you be willing to put up $2.99? They all raise their hand. Go to Mart, buy a mirror, put it on your front door. When you walk out there every morning, you'll find out the answer to most of your problems. It's a cheap way to find out where you can fix your problems. It lies within you. Serve. Man, you got to serve one another if you want to be a leader. You got to be willing to serve. We tell those guys that all the time. You got to be able to tell the truth. Young kids are starving for somebody to look them in the eye and tell them the truth. We're afraid to do that. I don't understand why. You know, if we're in a position of authority, we're supposed to tell them the truth. We'll be friends with them later. Tell them the truth. In our sport, average players, they want to be left alone. Good players, they want to be coached. Great players, they want to be told the truth. You can tell a great player the truth and take him right down to his knees if he wants to be great. If he wants to be good, he's affected by it. If he wants to be average, he leaves. Attitude of gratitude. Just like life, we always think about the things we don't have instead of the things we do have. Guys are starting talking about how sore they were running. Just put a video on, show them somebody in a wheelchair. Talk about how sore you are, that eliminates that problem in a hurry. Talk about guys that don't like to lift at 6 o'clock in the morning. Lift at 5, they like 6. They do. It's a true story. All you got to do to change the man is change the mind. It's how we think. And it's the same with investing in our children. We don't believe in them enough, so we don't invest enough. We put our time. You want to know where you spend your energy and the things that are most important? Look in your checkbook. It'll tell you what you're doing. You know, we have such a short period of time here on life, but it doesn't really matter how long we're here. It's what we do when we're here that really matters. That's what really, really matters. And kids know that. They know if you care. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. There's no question about that. Get people to believe in each other and know that there's unimaginable potential that awaits us each and every day, and that greatness lies with each and every one of us. There's no question about that. I had a kid ride up on his bicycle one day, come in my office. This is when I've moved about 4 times in Guild Coliseum. If you win games, you get a bigger office. So I moved from a small office to a bigger office to a bigger office. So I was sitting in Bobby D's office one day, which was my office. Kid rides up, because now I had a window, and I could see this kid comes in. He says, "Hey, Coach, my dream is to play baseball at Oregon State." I said, "Well, great. My dream is to be an astronaut." And I said, "Do you play baseball?" He said, "I do." He said, "I played at Ashland High School." I said, "Okay." He said, "Can I try out?" I said, "Sure. What's your name?" He said, "Max Gordon." Out the door he goes. So I called down there and talked to a guy. I said, "Coach, this is an unbelievable story. Max was in an automobile accident, and he lost his brother in the accident. That was 2 years ago. He's never recovered. He went down to play at a junior college and had to leave. Give him a chance." I said, "Okay." Max came back in and said, "Max, we're going to give you a chance to come out for fall ball." So Max came out for fall ball, and I found out that he couldn't run, he couldn't hit, and he couldn't throw. I said, "Max, we're going to still give you a shot." He's about 5'7", about 170 pounds. And some of you guys know who I'm talking about. So Max, at Christmas time, he comes in about a week before we're going to break, and he says, "Coach, I need to know if I made the team, because we could only carry 35 guys. I said, "Well, Max, we've got to make sure we got 2 guys that are hurt, whether they can play." And he says, "Okay, you know, and there's a possibility that maybe somebody isn't eligible, somebody wants to transfer, I don't know." A week later, here comes Max. "Coach, I have to know." I said, "Well, Max, I just talked to you about that." He said, "Well, I got to let my living situation know." I said, "It's college. Guys move in and out of places all the time together." He said, "No, Coach." He said, "I'm living at the KOA campground." That's how bad he wanted to be on our team. He was living at the campground, and he had to give up his camp spot if he didn't make our team. So in our office, we have a big board, and on the board, there's everybody's name. Guys' name that are in blue, you're Michael Conforto. You're an all-league player. Guys that are in red, those are guys that are Pac-10 players. that are going to help us win, but they're not great players. Guys that are green are guys that we think have potential to help us win, but they're not talented enough to be red or blue. Guys' names that aren't on the board, they're going home. Max's name wasn't on the board. So I walked in and I put his name in blue on the board. Guys are looking at me like, wow. I said, this guy's going to help us win a championship. And in 2013, he was our starting center fielder. We went to the College World Series, and he changed my life, and we changed his life forever because of his will. Don't ever give up on people. Don't ever give up on people. Don't ever keep people from dreaming, especially young people. If you don't believe in dreams, you've never had one come true. 3 things leaders do for sure. They dream, they pray, and they work. And if you're not on your knees praying for how much work it's going to take to fulfill the dream you're looking for, your dream isn't big enough. That I promise you. There's no doubt about it. I put a huge emphasis on what impact are you going to have on other guys' lives here in this program? What are they going to remember you for? What kind of dude were you? Because we do go to war together. We do fight for one another, but it's more than that. Are you just going to be a face and a picture hanging on the wall in 10 years? Are you going to be a guy that somebody calls? I believe our program and our players are a place where you become one, where you can rely on one another. And I don't care how small the culture, the society, the community is. If you don't contribute back into it, it'll never have any sustainable success. It just won't. It just won't. Your character, you know, they say is who you really are when people aren't around, and your reputation is just what you want everybody to think you are. And that your character is not only the mark that life leaves on you, but the mark you leave on life. And I really believe that, because I believe your character becomes your destiny. And I believe in character. I believe that people have to practice character. I believe you can develop character. And I believe that young men can have an unbelievable impact on one another. Our young kids, our children, are our future. They're our future. Our little boys, our little girls become young ladies and young men, and then they come men and women that will have families. We need family. We need to go against the grain that tells you that families are no longer what they used to be. I'm going to try to read this, Steve. This thing is really cool to me. I get thousands of emails. I read about 2. And but when I find something that's important, I keep it. Something that hits home with me, I keep it. And it has to be really simple, because I'm a simple guy. That's why I'm coaching, right, Wayne? Here's a great story, I think. We need to consider day by day the impact and the legacy we were meant to have and to leave in the world around us, and who we consider we are and who we are created to be. It's a story of a father who finally found out what was truly most important in life, and thankfully not too late for him to change. For you see, he was a very successful businessman who finally found time for his busy schedule to take his 12-year-old son fishing. An achiever and a very efficient one. This man considered leisure to be an extravagance. After a long day spent catching nothing, the pair returned home. Waste of time, the man grumbled to his wife that night as they got into bed. Didn't catch a thing all day, just a waste of time. His wife turned to him and handed him a small book that his son had showed him earlier when she was putting him to bed. It was his son's diary, and he had written, "Best day of my life, went fishing with my dad." You know, how many of us think we quit being dads, quit being mothers? One time I got home at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was living at home. I was in college, and my dad met me at the back door. My dad was pretty good size at that time, and 4 o'clock was not a good time to come in. But I didn't happen to have my cell phone with me because they didn't have them back then. To call my daddy to tell him I'd be home, I actually kind of creeped my way down to Oregon State with a couple buddies, and he was waiting for me at the back door. In addition to wanting to kick my butt, he looked at me before it was all over and he said, "Whether you like it or not, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be your dad." I've never forgot that. Even though he was pissed, even though he wanted to knock me out, which he could have, he wanted me to know that for the rest of my life, he was going to be my dad. And that for the rest of our life, these kids sitting off to the right and the left of me are going to be mothers and dads, are going to be our future, are going to be who and what our culture and our community is. And our investment and our time in them is so more valuable than we can even imagine. Because when we're gone, which death comes to us all equally, and when it comes, we're all equal, it's what we leave behind that we'll be remembered for. So I just encourage you to do everything that you can do with your life and to know and understand, once again, that unimaginable potential lies in each and every one of us. And don't let anybody ever tell you that you're too young or you're too old. The great author, Matthew Kelly, he reminds us when somebody tells you the first half of your life you're too young and the second half of your life you're too old, that Tiger Woods broke 50 for 9 holes of golf when he was 3. Anne Frank wrote her diary at 13. Paul McCartney met John Lennon when he was 15 and formed a group. Bill Gates co-founded Microsoft at 19. Joe DiMaggio, 56-game hitting streak at 26. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence at 33. Mother Teresa left a convent to work in the slums of Calcutta at 40, captured the imagination of the entire world for 5 decades. Winston Churchill became Prime Minister of Great Britain at 65, Nelson Mandela, President of South Africa at 75. Dimitri Aridonis ran a marathon at 98, and Arichi Araya climbed Mount Fuji at 100. Don't let anybody ever tell you you're too young, you're too old. Don't let anybody take your dreams from you. Live your life to the fullest. Thank you very much.